Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here in Virginia, and we're here to share some of the information that's happening in data science.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Deb Crawford from Virginia. I currently serve as math supervisor in Frederick County Public Schools and am the lead on the data science course development team in Virginia. I'm happy to be here today to talk about what's up with data science in Virginia.
Hi, my name is Tina Mazzacane. I'm the K-12 Mathematics Coordinator here at the Virginia Department of Education. I'm here to share some of the exciting work that we'll be doing here in Virginia around data science. So data science in Virginia is centered around a vision with three different focal areas: mathematics and statistics, computer science, and business and industry. And as a history of the work we've done in data science, we really started this work prior to the COVID pandemic in 2020, and we pulled together educators from across the state to create a course and set of standards that might serve to cut across different course sequence options in Virginia high schools. The desire was really to create a course that could be very mathematics, statistics, and computer science driven, but through the lens of computer and community-centered problem solving. The first iteration of the standards that we developed were really too math and statistics focused. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and the team regrouped. And the next year, of course, we were then in a virtual world, developed standards that were centered on a more inquiry-based data cycle, focused on data literacy. Data science was first taught in Virginia high schools this past school year in 2022-2023. So the trifecta of knowledge, we're calling it, that created the vision for data science in Virginia is shown on the screen. The computer science component of the course includes a soft touch on programming, mostly Python, along with the use of other technology tools. The math and statistics is really blended into the problem-solving activities that we built into each unit of the course. Students build on content understanding from prior grade levels, and the academic disciplines, business and industry, round out that trifecta and provide the context for data science. We live in a data-driven world, and we know that students need to look at content through these lenses in order to fully comprehend the need for data science. So the Virginia Data Science Standards of Learning were approved by the Virginia Board of Education in April of 2022. Two documents were approved and provide the content basis for the course. The Standards of Learning document provide the broader learning objectives for the course, while the curriculum framework is just that. It's a more detailed framework that provides additional structure to the standards and guidance for the teacher in designing curriculum for a data science course. So we wanted to share a little bit of information about data science in Virginia, and we put together a video that we're going to show now.
Data. Fueled by the technological revolution, understanding data as both a consumer and producer is an emerging skill set required of our times for all of us. Understanding how to safely navigate data for decision-making requires knowledge of potential bias in statistics. Knowledge of data science principles is needed across all sectors of our workforce. To top it off, demand for workers with a data science skill set far surpasses our current supply. This provides an incredible opportunity for all of our students to build this skill set needed in current and emerging jobs. Reinforcing this workforce need, the Virginia Department of Education formed a diverse team of educators along with a data scientist from industry to design the first set of standards for a high school data science course, approved and launched in 2022. Data science lives at the intersection of mathematics and statistics, computer science, and its data sources from business, industry, or any discipline. The Virginia standards were built to be tool agnostic, allowing for teacher and student choice and technological evolution. In the pilot course, 3 tools are being used by students: CodeApp for data analysis, Python for coding, and a spreadsheet program. What do current Virginia students have to say about being in a data science course?
Ever since taking this course, I've learned a lot about data. Each time I am in class or just living life and I see something involved with data, I apply all that I learned in this course to that data. For example, I think about how the data might have been collected. I think about if there is any bias, and I also think about how it could have been done better. This course has changed the way I think about data drastically.
The data science course is inquiry-based. Students use an iterative data cycle to inform a problem, context, or question. The data science course content is organized into 5 strands, which students access through a dataset from a topic of personal, local, or even global interest. The 5 strands are data and context, data bias, data and communication, data modeling, and data and computing.
Data science is a unique opportunity that teaches me new critical skills every day. It has helped me truly grasp the great importance, benefit, and variety in the field, and what data science can accomplish.
The VDOE is providing opportunities for professional learning for data science teachers. One goal from the pilot year is to empower all teachers to teach data science. In doing so, we are building teacher leaders to coach peers as DS scales up in future years.
From my view on the data science course, it is a great course, and I would recommend it to anyone who is interested in working with computers and graphs.
How will you bring data science to your students in your school or division? A data science FAQ from the VDOE provides the basic information needed for leaders interested in offering a high school data science course during the 2023-2024 school year. The Division Data Science Information Resources can be used in your communication to stakeholders about data science. Multiple mathematics course pathways can include data science. The pathways shown are samples, but additional options are available. Please contact vdoe.mathematics@doe.virginia.gov for more information. Today's learners will enter a world defined by data. Data already plays a pivotal role in our homes, workplaces, and our communities. But in too many learning experiences and classrooms across the nation, data is not yet playing this crucial role. This is a tremendous oversight. It is also an incredible opportunity. Our world.
Great. So we're very excited about data science in Virginia. And as the video mentioned, we do have a pilot that happened last year in 2022-23. We had 19 school divisions out of the 133 that exist in Virginia participate in the pilot. And we are embarking on a year 2 pilot for the upcoming school year, which we intend to have 21 school divisions. We've held professional learning for teachers both in the previous summer and this summer. And we've been very excited to have cohorts of teachers that serve as teacher leaders in the work. And the last meeting we had, which was centered on Python, we had actually 23 of the teachers attend, which is a pretty big deal for the middle of summer on an afternoon, on a sunny afternoon. So we're excited about the interest that we have in data science. The map that you see on the screen shows 8 superintendents regions. That's how our divisions in Virginia are divided. And it really starts to tell the story of our year 1 pilot in Virginia. So each star on the map designates a division in which high school data science was taught during the 2022-23 school year. So we like to always start any professional learning or session that we do with teachers with a data talk. And so we would encourage you to think about, what do you notice and what do you wonder about this particular map? And you'll notice that many of the populous areas of our state occur in Region 4, which would be near DC, the Washington, DC area. And then down in that more of the southeastern part, Region 2 is where Virginia Beach and is a very populous area. As you get more into the western part of our state, it becomes more rural and a little bit more widespread and out in the country. So that kind of helps you a little bit to think about this particular map. And now we want to share the map from our year 2 pilot. And again, each of the triangles in this particular map also designated a division in which high school data science was taught during is going to be taught during the next school year. And so again, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And we really like to get students to be thinking about looking at data. So we've been collecting a lot of data, not only through looking at where the courses are being offered, but what the teachers are doing, where they've needed support. And we've done a lot of surveys with teachers so that we want to make sure that each of these school years improves in terms of expanding and improving the instruction for data science. So the need for data literacy in Virginia is very high, and we know that today's economy is a data-based economy, and it's fueled by big data. The multitude and variety of data that businesses and their employees are flooded with on a daily basis requires employees to employ critical thinking, problem solving, computational thinking, and analytical thinking using data. So think about your current team that you work with. Does everybody have data literacy skills that they need to do their job? Data literacy skills aren't easily taught or acquired on an ad hoc basis. So one data science elective course that someone takes may not achieve a data literate citizenry. So rather, we need to embed data literacy education vertically K-12 and ultimately across all content areas, but for now, at least in mathematics. And Virginia has done exactly that in revising its standards of learning. So we want to return to these three focal areas of Virginia data science and begin to talk about mathematics and statistics. There's an obvious connection between K-12 data literacy and the teaching of mathematics and statistics. So let's explore this a little bit more deeply. On June 15th, 2023, the Board of Education approved in Virginia for first review the mathematics standards of learning for Virginia, which include a large focus on data science. So we're in the process of revising our standards here in Virginia, and these standards are currently under public review until mid-August. Data literacy is that ability to read, write, and communicate about data in context. And the skills that we need students to have to be data literate are included in these proposed 2023 math standards of learning and exist as part of a data cycle. And this cycle includes asking meaningful questions, collecting or acquiring appropriate data, analyzing, interpreting, and communicating about data. Data literacy is necessary for many jobs, such as those in science, technology, business, and engineering, but also to ensure that our students can navigate as a citizen in a world in which data we know plays a vital role. So as we looked at creating these proposed standards of learning for 2023 in Virginia, we built upon an existing progression of math content in the current 2016 mathematics standards. This slide shows the progression of data representation and interpretation, which is one part of our set of standards currently in Virginia. And it develops from starting in grade K, where students collect, organize, and represent data, and extends all the way through grade 6, where students make observations and inferences about data represented in a circle graph. The next slide shows the progression of data representation and interpretation as it develops from grade 6 all the way into high school in Virginia. And in our current standards, each grade in K through 8 has a focus on a particular graphical representation. So for example, in grade 7, histograms are the focus, while in grade 8, box plots and scatter plots are introduced. So the data representation and interpretation in high school begin to expand more deeply into scatter plots and curves of best fit. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Crawford, and she's going to look a little bit more into instructional shifts.
So as we work to write our revised standards of learning for 2023, we incorporated the recommended instructional shifts of questioning throughout the statistical problem-solving process, and we did that through the data cycle. So from kindergarten through Algebra 2, the data cycle will be the process, the iterative process through which students learn data literacy skills. They will be using different data types and variable types, and including multivariate thinking, really focused on probabilistic thinking, and the role of technology means that we are tool agnostic with our standards, but that kids will develop those tech tool skills to be able to analyze, visualize, model, and form predictions from data, and then communicate out their findings. And then we are working on assessment items that will be able to measure whether students have these data literacy skills. And so when you look at the new 2023 revised standards of learning, you'll see what Tina was talking about in terms of a focus on particular visualizations at each grade level, K through 8. But you will also see that in every grade level, the student will apply the data cycle by posing questions, collecting or acquiring data, organizing and representing data into visualizations, analyzing data and communicating results within that focused visualization. And so the same data cycle goes all the way through the high school courses, Algebra 1, after Algebra 2 as well, up to data science. So in Algebra 1, students will have experiences with univariate data, and they will be focusing on histograms fitted with a smooth curve, but they will still be going through that data cycle in order to analyze a data set in order to do this. In terms of investigating bivariate data, they will focus on data and scatter plots, determining the curve of best fit using linear and quadratic functions. In the next, one of the next options, of course, is in a pathway. In algebra functions and data analysis, students will be doing a survey project or an experiment. They will also be, when they're analyzing bivariate data, adding in exponential functions to linear and quadratic. And then in Algebra 2, students will be really going deep with univariate quantitative data with the stats. They'll be certainly, really going into bivariate data with linear, quadratic, exponential, but they'll be able to choose any function to fit a particular data set based on the behavior, so that they will really be able to use data in the data cycle to model and predict. And then when they get to data science, the types of data will increase to more of the emerging types of data, and the types of visualizations will increase as well. Bubble charts, heat maps, they will be using the emerging methods to analyze data that are developing now to be able to use the data, most of it non-structured, that is emerging. Most of the data has been created in the last 2 years, and it's not in spreadsheets, it's not static. So we're going to be really exploring quite a bit with geospatial data. And so data science opens up the types of visualizations that students are choosing based on the types of data. And the way we are doing this K-12 in Virginia is focusing on using local, real-world data sets of interest to our learners, and really thinking in terms of decision-making on which visualization is best, starting early, K through Algebra 2, before data science, using a variety of tech tools, apps, spreadsheets, Desmos, CodeApp, coding through Python, but tool agnostic. Students will be choosing those tools, and those tools will emerge over the next several years as technology tools progress and change. But most of all, they'll be learning data literacy skills through an iterative data cycle using inquiry-based learning. In terms of incorporating computer science, it's already there. We have computer science standards of learning that are embedded into not only our data science course, but also K through 8, integrated into all core areas in Virginia. And you can see the 6 strands of computer science in Virginia, and all of them touch data literacy skills, and all of them are embedded in data science in one way or another. There are 3 that we focused on, algorithms and programming, data and analysis, a natural, and impacts of computing as being natural fits in that integration. And just to give you an idea from the computer science high school courses, some of the data literacy skills that already exist in our computer science standards of learning. You can see using data analysis tools and techniques to identify patterns in data. We do that in data science, much aligned. Applying simple algorithms to a collection of data, using tools and methods for collaboration. And then this whole idea of data visualizations being interpreted in a variety of forms, converting between them and analyzing the trade-offs on which is the best visualization, a natural fit. When we go on to computer science foundations, there are more standards. In red, you can see the natural connections to data science. We like to look at this graphic that kind of combines data practices with modeling and simulation practices and computational problem-solving practices and systems thinking, because in inquiry-based learning and in the data cycle, kids are doing all of these things. And these are skills needed for the real world. And the final area that data science integrates is this idea of integrating with our community, with our business and industry partners, with higher ed and across all academic disciplines. Tina, do you want to talk about the need for these data literacy skills?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. We took a look at some data that shows some of the fastest growing occupations in the United States. And you can see from the chart that's on the screen, and I believe this data came from a government website, I believe in 2022. And it shows how much data science is growing. But look at some of the other areas, you know, as far as growth is concerned. So we want to make sure that we're developing students that live and can breathe in this sort of world. And so we've developed partnerships already in Virginia. We've got some great partners. When we developed the standards of learning, we pulled in partners from a company called Black Sky, and an actual data scientist sat on our committee to help us develop those standards of learning. And from there, you know, we've just branched out and tried to reach out to different organizations. We were working with Amazon through their Amazon Web Services. We have a great relationship with NASA. And we've worked with Code VA, which is in our state and works, you know, very closely with us as far as the computer science pieces. And then we've also been working with North Carolina State and a representative there that's developed a whole professional learning series for teachers around data literacy and data science. So you know, the need for this, we know, is there, and we are certainly growing in the capacity to pull in business.
So at our Professional Learning Data Science Institute in June, our data science teachers were given professional learning on 3 new tools that they'll be using this year. They will be using AWS Spark from Amazon to employ cloud computing with big data sets into our data science classrooms this year. And we are very grateful to Amazon for providing that training and resource for us. Elizabeth Joyner from NASA spoke to us for our keynote in June, and she shared NASA's new data visualization tool that we got to try out as a prototype, and we will be using that with Earth science data in the upcoming school year. We're excited about partnering with NASA, great resources right in our state. And then, of course, we continue to partner with Code VA, and they have worked with us to create data science curriculum resources around CodeApp and Python, as well as some unplugged resources to get kids going in data science. But when we look at Black Sky in terms of industry and business in the Commonwealth, we are planning to work with leaders in cyber, in computer science, in IT across the state to host a summit coming up so that we can bring industry, business, and other partnerships to our classrooms so that students can partner for their projects and get data sets from Virginia, from local contexts that they can analyze and solve problems from. So we're very, very interested in scaling up those partnerships. We have some good ones right now, but we want to scale this up greatly. And of course, all of our students need to learn data literacy skills. Data is the currency of the world in which they're living. And so we thought you might be interested in hearing from some of our data science students from year one. Why data science? How do they feel about it?
Hi, I'm Quinn. I really enjoyed taking data science this year because it taught me how to use a lot of tools I would have never learned otherwise, like CodeApp, Google Sheets, Python. It also introduced me to a lot of careers I never would have known about if I hadn't taken this class. And I think my favorite part of the class is actually this final project because we've been learning about the data cycle all year, and it was really interesting to finally apply it to a project as big as this.
Data science is a unique opportunity to learn programming and coding. I loved using the technology and the tools to use the data analysis. I think it's the best math class I've ever had, especially because of the computer skills that I can use later on in life.
Okay. I had previously taken AP Computer Science Principles and AP Statistics. While I truly loved both classes, data science was the most practical. I really loved connecting my coding and statistics experience to make me a more analytical thinker. I want to study computer science in college, and I would not be surprised if data science influenced my career choices.
Hi, I'm Aiden.
I'm Logan.
I'm Gabe.
And we're Ms. Keenan's data science class. I've really enjoyed it so far, and I've learned a lot about being able to better discern the validity of my data and sources online.
And one of my favorite things about the class was the use of storytelling, and one of the things that made our life easier was the use of query. Pretty much it just simplifies and lets us find data without having to scroll through it for 20 minutes to make our lives easier.
I learned that graphs can be manipulated by people and it shows biases in them, and it's good to know that so you don't get tricked up or you get fed the wrong information.
Best part about this class is we're actually going to use it in the real world.
Yes, Logan's right. Our students in Virginia are going to be using data science in the real world every day. And Virginia has planned to do exactly that for every student in the Commonwealth through the new mathematics standards of learning. So back to Tina to close out.
Great, thank you, Deb. And it's so wonderful to hear from the students because they're the ones that matter. They're the focus of our work. So we're happy to be able to share the things that we're doing here in Virginia. We have our contact information on the screen. Please feel free to email us and check out our website. We'd love to be collaborators in this work with you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hi, everyone. What questions might you have for us? I'm seeing Tina Rhodes in chat and Trina Wilkerson and Colleen and Kenya. Thanks for joining us. What questions might you have? Oh, thank you, Colleen. Colleen's thanking us for the student voices. And she's wondering how the standards revisions process will ensure that data literacy doesn't feel like just another thing that teachers have to do. In Virginia, we have embedded data literacy K through Algebra 2 in our new 2023 standards of learning. And the data cycle is the vehicle we're using to embed data literacy through those different grade levels and courses. I know, for example, today I'm working with 42 teachers and they are working in grades 3 through Algebra 2 in order to write rich tasks around data literacy and thinking in terms of each of those courses where that would fit in their standards of learning with our new standards that were just approved August 31st. What other questions might you have for us? We're excited. We've grown from about 19 teachers to close to 50 this year. And one thing we're very excited about is having our teacher leaders from year one coaching and leading our teachers in year two. We feel like that model will really help us scale up. How do you plan to reach more rural areas? What a great question. So in year one, we had a grant with the Rural Math Innovation Network. And as a result of our recruiting efforts through that grant, over half of our piloting teachers were from rural areas. And that continues to be the case this year, where we are able to reach some rural divisions, but of course not all. We do have piloting this year a virtual online data science course from Virtual Virginia, where any student in any school division can take data science. So that's one strategy, but we also really want to develop teachers to teach data science in our rural areas, and we're doing that through cohorts. We have cohorts of teachers learning about data science, practicing different strategies, different lessons, learning Python, and they're meeting in cohorts throughout this year. They met all summer, meeting weekly, and they're really scaling up. And we're hoping that that will also increase the ability of all of our divisions to offer data science. But the short and long of it is we have about half rural, and we are offering an online course for data science. Tina, did you want to add to that about how we're recruiting rural areas?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, I really think that reaching the rural areas is a big piece of this. And I think Deb mentioned that we're working with our Virtual Virginia cohorts to help us develop and kind of spread the word about having a virtual option. Because a lot of times we just don't have the teachers that are available to teach those courses in some of the rural areas. We've also thought about having two different divisions kind of pair up and offer that course together. So there's lots of creative things we can think about doing to get this spread across the state, because we have a lot of rural divisions in Virginia.
Thank you, Tina. We have another question for you. The next question is from Trina Wilkerson, your friend from NCTM.
Hi, Trina.
What do you see as your next goal related to this regarding teachers, curriculum, and perhaps additional partnerships?
Yeah, I think our next goal as we roll out these new standards, they were just approved on August 31st. So we're getting the field acclimated to the new standards. But a big piece of this is we built in a data cycle into all of our standards K through 12. So how do we help teachers change pedagogy in terms of not just thinking about how do I create a bar graph or how do I create a representation, which has kind of been the focus for many of our teachers, especially in the K-8 world. But how do we get them to start to think about what's a problem that I might be able to solve? What data might I need to collect? How do I represent that data? How do I analyze and answer the question or solve the problem that I've brought about? So that's a big shift for teachers. So we anticipate lots of professional development and resource development to kind of make that change.
Great. One last question. Oregon's math challenges and stats are a lot like Virginia's. We are changing our standards and math pathways in similar ways. How might we collaborate across states if we're doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think that we've done some collaboration with Oregon. I know that Mark there has been a great partner in much of the work, and we do have some common goals. So that makes the work even better. We've worked a lot with CBMS, that organization, to try and kind of put our shoulders together and do the hard work that needs to be there. But I think the more that we can reach out to one another and share the good work and the challenges, I think the better off we all are.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. see you in the next one. Tina.
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us. Have a great rest of your conference.